God wants to bless us. But oftentimes when we receive that provision, we end up worshiping it instead of the God who provided it. I was like, whoa, like God provided, but maybe I can have more. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Roots and Streams podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Llamas, and we are in season 3. I know I said like seasons don't matter, but there was a pause and I'm just going to run with it. People say seasons, and let's just say season 3, episode 1. And I'm hoping that you just saw like a new introduction, maybe new music. I'm going to try to work on that between recording this and putting it out tomorrow. Just to make things a little fresh. So, I'm working on guests. I have at least 2 guests that are coming up. And if you are just listening to this and not watching, you'll see I am, and I am alone. There is no guest today. And it kind of worked out. And I think for the best, I thought maybe kicking off episode 1 to share what's been going on in my Sabbath, in my last 2 weeks of rest, of a break. And what's been going on with me, like emotionally, on my journey of taking a sabbatical and not working and kind of working and stay-at-home dad, and just all the things, just updating, because I talk about and try to use my journey, my life, as an example of so many things and topics that we are all going through on a day-to-day basis. Going to be primarily touching on just updates for me, and also just want to share with you, I do have 2 guests. One that I probably will be recording with tomorrow, but we'll be releasing next week. And then one other that I've talked to that I need to schedule. So I anticipate the next 2 episodes having guests, and I'm really excited to just bring on new ideas, new people, new stories as this thing continues to unravel. So I just continue to thank everyone for all the support, and to getting this podcast to the point where it is not so hard for me to hit record. And I feel like some accountability because people are listening, and this is somewhat, therapeutical for me, hitting record and just sharing what's going on, and in the hope that I'm serving the people that are listening, that they can maybe just take a moment to reflect or learn something new or rethink some things, or just to be entertained by watching me and like make all my mistakes in life and learn from them. And so I want to mention that there is a new venture. I loosely, like very quickly mentioned it in the last episode, before I took the 2-week break during Easter. And I'm going to start, or I've already started, life coaching. If you're not familiar with life coaching, the closest thing I can say is it does have some, and this is kind of controversial, like some aspects of therapy, but more so it's like focused on the present, on definitely like it is minus all of the like clinical things and mental health, even though that's like, it's kind of a thin line. I know. And I remember even going through some trainings, people were like, no, this is therapy. But I mean, for me, at least, and there's so many different types of life coaching. So you can find one that's like, this is like 10 classes to get you into being more disciplined, or there's like health-based life coaching, or like, for training and eating right, or, one for women and for confidence, or for relationships. And there's just a lot of variety, and it's kind of focused. And, but I had always seen life coaching and heard of it. And I think the kind of thing that attracted me towards it, and even when I was working in my previous job, when I love coaching. I actually am coming from a career that I was doing for 10 plus years, where for the most part, I was one-on-one coaching. I was doing some professional development, so large group workshops and presentations and trainings. But for the most part of those years, I developed and grew into being a coach, one-on-one coach for teachers, and coaching them like to implement technology into their lessons. And one thing that always I was drawn to was more so the social, like emotional, the soft skilled side. So a lot of like my training and courses and studying while I was a coach was heavy on like social emotional, like listening, paraphrasing. So like saying back what people are saying, like studying the brain, on those aspects, because I felt like there was so much to learn there. The technology came easy. I went to school for technology. I'd been studying like and learning multimedia apps and programs for since high school, and technology is something that just comes just fairly easy to me, and especially just in the technology field. This never anything like super complicated. So I always focused on my people skills, my building rapport, building relationships, and listening and making people feel heard. And I think it also came partly naturally that I had a knack for that, but definitely was able through those years to hone in on that. And so in these last couple of months, it really dawned on me that the idea just kind of popped in my brain again, and started seeing things on YouTube about life coaching. I was like, what if there's something there? And because I already have so much training kind of in the area and with working with people and have some experience, it seems like a natural transition. Now, I will say that there is a credential, like a life training, life coaching certificate and like credential you can get that takes 6 months or so, that I will be working on just to have it. I'm not somebody, if you know me, I'm not big on getting like certificates for things, like even technology. I never had like Google apps certified, and I knew how to use all the programs, but I don't know, just something with school. I don't know, maybe I'm just being prideful or lazy. I'm not sure, but getting certificates for things was always like just not what I was about. So, but I do want to, when I find the right kind of school or organization that's offering that, it's not too long. I want to get that in tandem. So while I since I've already started life coaching, and it hasn't been a lot. It's actually only been one session, but I did start it. And I thought it went really well, and I'm really focusing on just helping people to untangle, right? That are going through and navigating a time of like challenges and changes in life, and to just really take a moment to just like sit down, be heard, untangle some thoughts, kind of have some reflection, and maybe I'm not so big on it, but maybe set some goals, and maybe use some tools to help deal with the day to day. I'm very big on taking it slow though. So, I think as we're untangling, I think sometimes it can almost be, it can be counter productive to just then, okay, I talked for 45 minutes. Now I'm ready to set goals and fix everything. For my experience, it doesn't really work like that. I think there's definitely ways we can like set some goals to recenter ourselves throughout the day, and to kind of get focused and get and like stay productive, and getting like certain tasks done. But my goal is not to turn you into like the most productive person. It may happen from as you untangle and kind of talk about, how you're feeling and maybe the rut that you're in, and you kind of like are able to take a step back, hopefully with working with me, and to kind of see things for what they are, and just be able to have a bird eyes view of like, oh, okay, I kind of see like how I'm feeling. I see where it's coming from, and able to kind of like focus in on where I need to go next. That may happen. It may take a couple of sessions, it may take one. But I am very big on, if you are familiar with this podcast, like just being a little bit more emotionally aware, in our relationships, in our personal growth, and just having somebody who I consider myself a pretty good listener, and I think even just the feeling and the act of seeing that somebody else heard you and like, wow, they're getting it, they understand me, it really helps. And I think that God uses us as a vessel to be seen. And I'm going to bring that up in today's theme. So that is a lot of it about the coaching. I have built a website. I will be sharing that. You can sign up for a free 30-minute consultation. And look, I have wrestled with this, and man, we're going to get into a lot today. I can say this because if this is all like, you only listen to like the first 20 minutes and you get interested about the coaching, look, hit that button to sign up for a free consultation. I am at the point right now where I am starting out. I consider other people offering their time with me as a gift right now. Like, and it always will be. I just focus on that because I'm not trying to charge anyone right now, man. Maybe this is like a huge like business error, and that's fine. Honestly, I feel like this is where God has me, and this is where he's going to start it. And I have faith that God's going to provide. And this is just the way it's going to start, is that I'm looking for people who are just like, have heard the podcast and maybe are interested, whether you can do it virtually or in person, and to just do me a favor, right? And you may do yourself a favor. I hope that you end up a little better off than when you showed up. Hopefully you don't end up worse and I screw everything up and you're like, Matt, I'm more lost than when I started, and I'm more, depressed and more sad and emotionally confused. I highly doubt it. But, my goal is to kind of get in some coaching hours. Again, I've been doing this for years, but the focus is a little different. I get the chance now in this on this new platform of coaching that I'm building, just doing on my own, that it doesn't have to only be about education. Because honestly, like when I was doing educational coaching, at times it would go towards like more personal because I had worked and focused on my relational building and listening skills. I would get great relationships with teachers, and hoping to get some of those testimonials. I haven't talked to a lot of them, but our relationships were so good. Like I could text them or email them whenever something was needed. Like I had a really good rapport with them. And I think a lot of it was kind of what I want to even go even deeper into with this life coaching, with what we're calling roots and streams coaching. You will feel like, some aspects of therapy if you've ever had that. But again, I've thought about going back to school, which is really hard for me to think about, to become a therapist, but I just don't see myself really taking on the clinical part of it. And so this is where I'm at now. This is where I'm in the journey where I've put together kind of a focus, a vision of what the coaching is about. And you can learn more on the website that I'll be sharing. I'll put it in the description in the podcast. And honestly, I think if you are interested at all, it's a great time to just say, hey, I really have nothing to lose, but maybe 30 minutes is the first one to kind of do a consultation of, is this for you? This is what I offer. This is some ideas that I have. Where are you at? And then after that, like, I don't have pricing. Like you're doing me a favor. Honestly, I see it as a blessing for the people, and I don't know how many I can do. I'm doing as many as I can, as many as I can fit in. I don't plan on charging anyone at this point. I see your time as a blessing for me to really build up my confidence in this transition into coaching, into building up the system, the structure. So I guess I am saying like it's a free consultation, but honestly, I don't plan on charging anyone who's signing up. At least I think maybe I can like handle a load of like 10 people, especially if you're going to be meeting with me weekly or bi-weekly. Again, it will be a time thing. I can't just say I can meet with everybody for free. And if there is a demand, things may have to change. And at some point, again, I will have to make a living, right? I still have children that need to eat, a mortgage that needs to be paid, but I am blessed to be in a situation where I am in a career transition and we have enough for today. And so that is a lot of bit about coaching, already about 14 minutes in. But if you're interested, check out the website, DM me, text me if you have my number, more information, whatever it is. I can send you I have a calendar app to book me. All the things. And so I'm looking to build that out. I'm excited about it. I think I am on to something, and I'm finally being disciplined into moving towards that. So the topic for today, kind of already into a good amount of time. And if you know, when I'm by myself, I don't like to go longer than an hour because not really jumping off anyone. And you don't want to necessarily listen to one person for that long, do you? I don't know. But I think the topic and kind of what I've been going through go hand in hand. And I've continued to read the book that I've shared a couple of times about the 7 deadly sins, or it's a book called Fully Alive, and it's tackling the 7 deadly sins of how they can tempt us and lead us into not being fully alive, and how when we do things to kind of counter that, and most of it is theological Christian biblical practices that counter the 7 deadly sins, and when we do that, when we can fight those off and we can do things that are rooted in the opposite of those sins, then we can be fully alive. And I think that there's a lot of words that I said that are loaded, like sin and biblical and theology, but just stick with me because I'm going to start with where I was recently reading, which is the one about envy. And kind of sum up to kick us off is, when we're envying or we're coveting, which is a very biblical word, and we're kind of desiring what somebody else has, or pretty much what we don't have, and typically what others have. And it could be money or materialistic things, or somebody else's spouse, or the way they raise their kids, or their house or their car, whatever it is. We're just so jealous and envious of somebody else, of how that is really robbing us of our joy that we could be living in and practicing. And it is not allowing us to be fully alive and to feel the peace and joy that we are promised. And in this chapter, one big part of it that stood out to me is, what is worship, right? Like worship. And when I, before even reading this, and I had thought, the word worship, when I think of it, I think of like on your knees, like praise, like worshiping something, bowing down to it. Or, that's like I don't know, when I think of stories and movies and worshiping a god or something like that, or, and also like singing to, very much so, like singing worship music, singing worship songs. That's like the word that's used, like worship music. However, I'm wondering what comes to mind to you, like when you hear the word worship. Share in the comments, like when I say the word worship, what comes to mind? And is it something that's in your life where you feel like you do it all? I'm curious about that. So, put in the comments, and what comes to mind when you think of worship. And for me, what this book points out is that, so I'm kind of going to read a quote here. I may do some reading for you here from this book. One is, worship is not just singing praises. It's actually a cousin of attention. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. I'm actually going to stick on reading here because it says something that I thought was really interesting. Look, so she's actually quoting in her book another novelist, so David Foster Wallace. And she says that he writes, in the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is actually no such thing as atheism. If you're not familiar with atheism is like just believing that there's no God. There's nothing to worship. There is no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. She mentions how worship as the act of focusing on something and seeking to move towards it. So the Greek word, one of the translations, is to come towards and to kiss. And we all end up doing it. Like, instead of, if we think of worship as like focus and attention, then we all are focusing and putting our attention onto something. And sometimes it can be money. Sometimes it can be, getting that new car, or it can be on our wives, right? Or our marriage. I truly believe, and there has to be some kind of balance in what comes first, right? But we can even idolize our marriage. And that really like stood out to me, just thinking so simply about what am I putting my attention, and time towards, and like moving towards, and what am I trying to be more like? So that's another thing that's mentioned here. Like, what are you trying to be more like? Because the thing that you are worshiping, or putting more attention and focusing on, you're moving towards, you're going to become more like that. And quotes here. So we should probably make sure it's something or someone we really want to end up like. And for me, in this recent season, I have to say that I was in denial a lot about a recent idol. And I didn't even mention that word because that's in here. So an idol, you can think of it as something that is not worthy of worship. And when we do worship it, usually it's leading us to death. It's leading us to feeling disconnected. And it misleads us. It's eating us alive. And that's very much how I felt like over these last couple of weeks, a couple of times. It's like I was being eaten alive. Like I was just feeling so much physical and emotional, like distraught, that it was really hard to to get through day to day. And I did and it was doing my best, as a father, as a husband, to like make sure I'm still going through the emotions as the best I can, and trying to even though it was difficult, show people love, even though my mind's kind of distracted by things. And this all goes back to, for me, was a sermon series about distraction, about the death of distraction, and is from Pastor Michael Todd. Probably familiar with that name if you know anything, or you're in the Christian realm at all. Is from Transformation Church, and he had a sermon series about distraction. And I remember during that time is when, it's not too long ago, definitely trading a lot in the stock market, because I'm not working. So I'm trying to take whatever capital or money we have and to build it up so that, continue to not use it. I was just trying I was trying not to be burdened. I was like, okay, if I could figure out how to make some income here, I can not take a dent on the money that we have. And not feel like, I'm not providing anything. And so in doing so, my focus, my attention was a lot on the stock market, just watching it, studying it, being anxious about the way it was moving. And so in that comes with all of the economical and political things going on, which is so far away from my typical attention and focus. Last time, not to get political, but last time Trump was in office, I didn't really pay attention. I didn't even know there were tariffs last time. This time, I can tell you about all of it, unfortunately. And I think I was lying to myself. I was allowing myself to be played. And to just say, you know what, it's not a distraction. I'm providing and just all the things. But thing after thing was proving that otherwise. I remember I saw, well, not only was it taking my time, and at the beginning, at the initial, I was like, whoa, I was able to make, to pay more than our bills. And then it just, from there on, it just got worse and worse. And when you are trying to invest or use something to make you money and is doing the exact opposite, let me tell you, the amount of anxiety, stress, shame, it felt like death. And I think a lot of times the Bible talks about death, almost all the time. Not in a physical that like your life ends and you're no longer breathing. It talks about an experience, right? Because when Adam and Eve, it talks about if they eat of the apple of knowing right and wrong, right? And what is it? Man, I'm forgetting which tree. I want to say the tree of life, but I want to say it's like the tree of knowing good and evil. And I think the tree of life is the other one. So I may be wrong. But just they eat of the tree they're not supposed to. And they get told that if they do that, they will surely die. Well, oddly enough, they don't physically die. If you're familiar with the story, they just get kicked out of Eden. They get kicked out of paradise. And I think, from studying it, I've taken of course of studying a course of with the Bible Project, studying Genesis, and looked into it further. And I think partly it's that perhaps one that they now are being kicked out to a realm where now they will die eventually, or also being disconnected from love, from, we're told that God is love, and from a God that loves us so much and wants us to experience like bliss and paradise, is death when we're disconnected from that source. So, oh man, losing track of where I was going. I wish I could like watch this back. It's like, Matt, what were you saying? But so that's kind of like where, oh man, sorry guys, I lost my train of thought. But I'll just pick up on the last thing I remember. It's just like being in oh yeah, just talking about like what I was feeling, like so disconnected. It really felt like death. Yeah, that's where I was. And I kept lying to myself of like that it was the right thing to do. And I'm not trying to say that the stock market or making money that way is evil and nobody should do it and there's not a right way to do it. I'm not saying any of that. I can only talk from my personal experience. And I got it. So and I got where I left off. So I'm seeing like, saw one Instagram post of like this guy talking about how, when the Israelites, right, they were slaves in Egypt, when they left, when they were taken out of Egypt, and they were slaves, right? Slaves aren't rich people. They're not people who usually have gold or anything. But there's a moment when they're out and they're in the wilderness and they make a calf out of gold. It's like, wait, and I never thought about this, but this post was pointing it out of where did these Israelite slaves get all this gold from? And they're poor, they're slaves. And just reminded me of like, okay, well, God actually told them before they left to go to their neighbors and ask for gold, for jewelry and things like that. And they gave it to them. And probably something they wanted to have done if they weren't, instructed and really felt like God's Spirit telling them to do this. And just something came over their neighbors to give them their treasures. So the story is that they were given that. And so they were exiting, right, their slavery. They're exiting Egypt, like running away. And all of a sudden they're rich. They have all this jewelry, all of this gold. And what do they decide to do with it? Instead of worshiping the God that provided for them and made them rich and in this situation where they were slaves, they were set free, and now they're wealthy. And instead of saying, oh my gosh, thank you, God, for this situation, for setting this all up, like I worship you. Instead, they melted it down and they worshiped the golden calf. They made a calf out of it to worship because they felt like God wasn't coming through for them. And so they asked, not Joshua, sorry, they asked Aaron, to make a golden calf for them that they can worship, right? And God gets super mad, but it just pointed out, like in the Instagram post, is that how oftentimes when we receive the exact thing that we're hoping for, or all of the provision and, everything we need from God, that oftentimes that God wants to bless us. I believe he wants us to bless us with security, with, especially if we're going to use it to further, share and to be generous and kind and love and to perpetuate his character. But oftentimes when we receive that provision, we end up worshiping it instead of the God who provided it. And that equates to like greed. And that's exactly, what happened to me is like I exited my last job with more than enough. And when God showed up and provided more, than enough while I'm exiting, because of the same thing, because of the stock market and everything that happened over the last, 6 months. I was like, whoa, like God provided, but maybe I can have more. But maybe I should, just see if I can get more, and instead of like taking more than enough that I already had, like that could last me. I'm regretful to share that I definitely am, and we I think we all are. Like we get so hard and kind of bag on like the Israelites. How couldn't they see? They were released from slavery and they're going through the wilderness. Like we're no better. Like I know I'm no better, and found myself in that situation. And going through that and then trying to reverse it. Man, I should have had this much. So I'm trying to get it back, and in getting it back, I'm just distracted in the stock market still, and I'm not worshiping. I'm not focusing or putting my attention onto like getting more biblical revelation, which I enjoyed so much before, or like really taking time to meditate on what's next. I just every day would wake up and trying to make breakfast, still take the kids to school, sometimes driving, paying attention to my phone because stock market and trading and watching and scared and or get excited, and it's just so much, and it draws you in so much because so many things are on the line, and financial security feels like life and death a lot of the time. And when we put our focus there. And so, I kept going back and forth for, I would say a couple of months now of is it good? Is it not? And deep inside, I kind of knew I should stop, but then I got to deal with the fear of what if I don't have enough? And then, so it's I feel like I'm dying and I'm fearful and anxious when I'm in the stock market, but also when I stop, I'm missing opportunities to make money to provide. And so it was I was damned if I do and damned if I didn't. I'm fortunate enough to be in a place where I know when all of that shame and just darkness is coming over me, I don't immediately, but I do have a pull that pulls me to share it with people, to share it with my wife, to talk about it. I'm fortunate. I am very, grateful for that I have done enough work, over the last months or years to have enough perspective and wherewithal to know, okay, no, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I need to go, but it's still not easy. I still end up in tears or, wrestling with it. And, I found myself, the last time I remember, and this was not very long ago, it's okay, I'm going to just invest in this one thing. And if this seems like all right, it's a good, safe thing, to invest in. And I'm just going to put, some money there and then put it there. And as soon as I did it, I was I'm such an idiot because, I think it's when it's sitting there overnight, I couldn't even sleep well. I was checking my phone and the market's still moving, even throughout the night, certain things just continue to move, and it's man, why did I do this? I can't even sleep. And honestly, I even ended up going to the hospital, going to urgent care, because the anxiety, the burning sensation in my chest, which I thought was my heart, was I had to skip playing basketball one day because I'm man, I need to go get this checked out. People were telling me Matt, you need to go get that checked out. That sounds really bad. I'm no, it's been weeks. I'm okay. It's going to go away. It's subtle. But that day, it just got really, really strong. And and I'm feeling other parts of my body kind of aching. And I'm what is going on? So, and it's funny because there's people in my life that are dude, why didn't you tell me? And honestly, there's probably even family members who I didn't know any of that. And, honestly, like, I just feel like I'm okay with just sharing it here. And it's the first time you hear it and you feel like I should have shared it with you. I'm sorry. This is just, I feel like this is the right time, and kind of like I'm out of it enough. And I'm obviously I'm healthy. I'm okay. But I go, and it turns out to be, they give me was it EKG? Like, I mean, maybe I got the acronym wrong, whatever it is, but they're just checking like my heart, to make sure it's not that. And thank God it wasn't. They're like, you're healthy, like your heart's fine. I think it's just a stress and anxiety you're dealing with. And it's probably like acid reflux. So it could feel like here, because our stomach's like right, like above our pectoral, and it's like right there. And the acid, sometimes when we get anxious and stressed, it kind of leaks up and you feel a burning sensation. And I've been feeling that constantly. And it just like, it's all associated, like it's all connected. And so I got some relief knowing it wasn't my heart, and it's probably like the stress and anxiety. And, I make that one last bad trade, and I'm like, God, I'm tired of losing. I'm going to have faith that what you have given me, which I currently have, which I know can last months, or even longer, is enough. Like, I don't have to multiply it. That's your job, God. Like, I just need to stop. And I wish I could tell you I had this revelation. I really wish, like, when it was larger, but I didn't. And, but at least I'm glad I'm at this point, because, in between it, in this last mistake or like failure I felt of a trade, and like losing more money, I was just like out of it. And we're going to like a Forrest Frank concert, which I think really was super helpful. And so Forrest Frank, if you're not familiar, definitely go check him out. Especially if you have any inkling of like, if you're Catholic, Christian, you believe in God, you believe in Jesus, and you're like, Christian music's kind of weird. I agree. There is some weirdness in the beginning. Some artists, they're okay. It's kind of, some of it's kind of cheesy. But Forrest Frank, to me, is kind of one of the best right now. And he's one of the biggest artists right now, and the hip hop, like rap kind of feel. And we went to go see him in Anaheim, and the whole time, like, I'm tired. I'm so tired. So not really in the greatest headspace, because I can't sleep at night, because of this poor investment. And then, also feeling like the heart burning, like, or at least it's not my heart, because I know that now, but it's like the burning in my chest. Anxiety is like super high. And I'm at this concert, and I know, like, just being there, like, I was still hopeful. Like, yeah, I didn't like, I wish I could tell you, like, I walked into the concert and just being in the presence, of all these believers, like, it wasn't like that. Like, just the feeling and the anxiety went away, and I felt so much peace. But I really got to give it to Forrest. He really is focused on, putting Jesus first in his concerts, and really speaking like words of just like goodness and light in his concert, and just sharing his own struggles. And it really was like a lifeline for me. I really think that was a turning point. Got out of that investment, and just have hung it up, over like this last week. And the peace that I have now, and the focus that I have now on the life coaching, is just multiplied so much. I do still get anxious and worry about the future, and whether we, gonna be able to make $1, one day. I know it will happen. I have faith that things are going to work out, and I'm just going to keep taking steps forward in the last thing God told me to do, and just stay disciplined with that. But I truly am grateful that I finally got, was able to deem it a distraction in that trading. I remember even in the middle, I was like, okay, I'm gonna study more. I'm gonna take it slow. And it just was not working out. I think the more, it got difficult, the more anxious I'd get. And, it was keeping me from focusing on like what's next in, I want to say career, but I don't know, that word's having like bad connotation for me these days. But just like what's next for me, like what's the next project, like what's the next thing I'm working on, what God has me doing next. And I have the freedom to be, and I'm grateful to like even be in a place where I can like take months to kind of work that out. And like I can just tell you, like between the last podcast I shot, which was like I was getting close to the worst, and then my anxiety to today, like it is night and day. Like I feel so much lighter. I slept okay last night, but it was more so Geode's fault, and I woke up early to go play basketball. But my anxiety levels is way low. I'm able to focus on coaching, on like the website, which I finished, and like just different parts of it that I'm building out. And I'm able to focus on things like moving forward, like even, but it was not from one day to the next. And I know a lot of times people talk about these things and it's like, well, I can't see that. Like I can't, this isn't, how am I going to stop doing this? And I'm not telling you to stop doing anything, but you may want to take a moment to just say, where am I putting my focus? Where am I putting my attention? Is it something that is bringing me life, or is it bringing me more worry, more shame, more guilt? Is it bringing me towards having more loving and truthful and joyful relationships with the people I love? Is it making me more like the person that I want to be, or that I'm idolizing? Whether you're a believer in Jesus Christ or not, if you are, is it making you more like Christ, or it isn't? Is it making you more like Jesus and his ways, or is it not? And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. And even as I started to step away from the thing that was bringing me so much anxiety, and I'm like, okay, I can focus on coach. I wish I could tell you, like, then I started focusing on coaching and everything was good. And that day went great. And then I just made the transition. It just doesn't, at least for me, it doesn't work like that. I had to be consistent for at least a couple of days, right? Because in that first day, I still have like stock market, money making mentality. And I'm like, can this thing make me money? Is it going to make me money? How fast can I make money? I need to make money fast, because I need to make it as fast as maybe I could have, or I could make it in the stock market. And that mentality was really like just pulling. Like I felt like I was getting pulled apart, and I just had to stay centered. Like, no, I've experienced it, and I had been through that wrestling too many times to know that I don't want to go back to it. Let me just focus and really stake my faith and my hope in that this is the right thing to do today, and not worry about tomorrow. And the more and more I do that, the more and more I feel like I have the peace that this is going to work out. Like this is the right step right now. Because when I was trading and starting to lose money and having, less, I definitely felt things like greed creep in. This was one of actually the red flags for me. And I remember telling Sandra, even though we had enough, but once you start losing money, it's like, at least for me, my generosity started to dwindle a little bit. Like, do I really want to give money to that homeless person? Or do I really want to treat these people to a meal, or whatever? And that is, for me, so if you know me, that is so out of character. So when I started noticing that, I immediately just wait, something's not right here. I'm feeling this greed creep in, and I don't like it. And I know the only way that I can reverse that is to, one, stop the thing that is keeping me feeling so anxious about my finances, and two, to give. And it sounds counterintuitive. And so even with my daughter, we started putting together packages to give to homeless people that when we see them, at our church, they're going to be starting a building project. So, we want to give to that. And I just don't want to I never want to be a person that can't give, that can't share, that can't be generous, because I find so much joy. And I think the reason why there is joy in giving and being generous, because I think it is the character of who we're supposed to be. Or I'm like any other person though. Yes, I do have a moment, and it's like, should I pay for this or should I pay for that? But no, I always try to just squash it and say, no, I know that being generous is the way to be. I'm not saying don't steward your finances and be overtly generous where, I don't know. The Bible says, Jesus says to be overtly generous. He says that you should give to the point where you can't tell that your left hand is doing what the right hand is doing, that you're giving and you don't even know it. So I don't know. Maybe I don't want to put too much cap on that, on too much like of a cap, the word cap these days, but like to put a stop or a limit to it. But I get it. Like, don't give away everything and then you can't support your family and pay for your bills. That's all I'm saying. But hey, I would challenge you to get to that point, because I would think most people are very far from being that generous, including myself. So that was a huge red flag for me. Like, no, my generosity is dwindling. I've worked so hard and I feel so natural for me to be at this point where I can just give. I'm not going to give that up. I don't care if I don't have enough. Like, I want to be able to give and just have faith that God's going to provide. So I am getting back to that. And I think even with the coaching, like, I truly, truly feel, like I mentioned in the beginning, that you all taking time to meet with me is a gift for me. And if you feel like, oh, it's a gift or whatever, like, honestly, you're doing me a favor. But I am grateful that I can offer that time and hopefully offer some valued coaching and time to just graciously and generously. And that's just the stage that is in. And let me look through my notes here. Because, in talking about idolatry and worshiping, I think to counter that, from, being fully alive, this book, Fully Alive, what it talks about is being beloved and like belovedness, like the true alternative to idolatry is what it says. And it talks about how we are here neither primarily for ourselves or for others, but because love wanted us here. I truly believe that. I really like how the Bible talks about how God is love, right? So you can even, it's a pretty cool exercise. And I've heard people talk about like replacing everywhere in the Bible that says God and replace it with love. That'd be an interesting read in some scriptures. And it mentions how love does not suffer from status anxiety. And again, this part of the book is about envy. And so she talks about status anxiety, and that kind of domino effects to status anxiety. So anxiety about like our status and who we are and what the world says we are in society, and are we poor, are we rich, are we beautiful? And if idolatry and taking all of these different things as being idols, then, and if idolatry leads to death, then you'll die so many deaths, right? If you idolize your looks, then when your hair turns gray, it's gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. Or when you get wrinkles that you can't fix, oh my gosh, I'm dying, and you just die. Or you lose money, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. Because it really does feel like that dark, like it can feel like a type of death. It's really interesting. I'm grateful to then right in this moment to be on the other side of that. And honestly, I have to believe that going through this season is going to give me, fortunately, unfortunately, some experience and perspective that I probably didn't have before. I probably, like, things were a little bit more easier, maybe not perfect, but like I said in a recent podcast, like sometimes I pray for a good failure because I know it will usually end up into something greater or help me to learn from. But honestly, this last one is tough to be grateful for. And I'm getting back into my therapy as of next week, because I gotta do my work too. I think that's something that people who do coaching or therapy, they're very bad at getting it for themselves. So I want to practice what I preach and take care of myself and get myself, somebody to talk to as well. But on this love portion, it talks about how knowing that you're loved, that it really like changes things, and it can help us focus on love itself, and from that energy and from that connection of not feeling like we're not enough. Not feeling like I need to seek something to feel like I'm loved, to feel like I'm enough, to feel like I'm not going to die. Um, and I think ultimately at the core of a lot of these fears and anxiety, you may be surprised, but I think it's as primal as life and death. I think as we boil all of this anxiety and stress out, it's just because it's a fear of death. And it may feel long from that, but the more I'll take a moment. When I heard somebody say that, I was like, wait, let me take some time to think really about this thing I'm having anxiety about. And I kept on like staying on it and like boiling it down. I was like, wow, it really is like life and death. And it's just masked and dressed as something else. But you can feel it. I would say if you feel like it's stressing you out, it's costing you some joy, it's taking you the opposite way of and it's making you anxious. There's definitely, I would say, some death in that experience and whatever that is. And you may want to rethink of how you are interacting with that. I think the Bible talks about how anything, right, can be good or evil. So maybe it's just the way you're interacting with that. And maybe like there will be a time for me to invest and be able to do it in a way where I'm not worried about it. It's like, oh, this is a good company or this is a good investment. And yeah, like God can use it. I'm not saying it's evil. It was just not the right time, and it was a distraction for me. And one of the last parts talks about being seen. And the question here is, what does it mean to be seen? How does envy tie into idolatry and the need for affirmation? And the quote is, I want to know that I'm not going to disappear if I'm neither successful or not, or successful or hot. That grounding my sense of self as a seen, known, and loved creature is a relief. And I could relate to that. I think going through this season of not yet being a provider makes me feel like, am I going to disappear? Am I going to be worthless? Am I going to matter? Am I going to be seen like as a failure? It's definitely a real thing that I think is masked. It's masked and hidden really well. Like I probably wouldn't have been able to pinpoint that if I didn't sit like and meditate on that for a while, because I started feeling some anxious feelings. And that was definitely one of them as I dug into it. It's like, wow, am I loved? Am I seen? Am I going to be like, or am I going to be shamed and just like kicked out because I'm not worth anything? And there was a lot of that going on. And I think when I can ground myself in like, God has provided. If nobody loves me, He loves me. And if I can just stick to taking one step at a time towards where He's pulling me, like I'm okay, like I'm loved and I'm enough. And as I would like share that with my wife, like she would reassure me like, no, like it's not that. And it actually created some tough conversations. And I want to say, like, if you want to know how loved you are or get that challenge, then, not having a job for a while when you need one, or I guess that's not like, I don't 100% need one. We have enough financially, but not having a job for a while is a real challenge. It really can mess with your mind and distract you and make you feel like less than. But I believe that, the practices that I'm trying to stay rooted in and near tell me that regardless of any of that, like I am seen, I am loved by God that cares for me, that just loves me and wants me to just rest with Him and to just dwell in His presence. And when I'm called to love on other people or like in correlation to where He's calling me, that I can do so because I'm energized by His love. And I think that's the same for everyone. And man, I just feel like I always have, but it's unfortunate. And I don't know what the answer is, but for sure, like the way things are set up right now, at least in Los Angeles, like the amount we have to work, the amount we have to come up with financially, it is very stressful and is very real. And it feels like, man, if I don't make this amount to keep this house or to pay for the lights and everything, like I'm going to be shamed, or I'm not going to be enough. And it feels like death. And I don't know what the answer is, because we have come to a lifestyle that, to other generations could seem so luxurious. Like I remember telling Sandra, like, can you imagine like in the 1920 crash, like people lining up in a soup line to eat because they were so poor? Like, could you imagine, like, that was just what everybody was doing? Like there was probably shame in it, but there's just lines and lines, and that's just where people were, like, and I know people have real struggles, and people are definitely still poor. But I think like majority just have never experienced that. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but there's just been a shift. And I feel like the drive for more, the drive for success, the drive, to make sure you have the latest or this amount, or it can definitely pull us towards worshiping things that we probably shouldn't. Pull us towards giving our focus and attention to things that are going to lead us towards feeling less than and feeling more death than we should. And at least for myself, I want to do my best to try to set things up where I can be sure to more days than not lose my focus on the things that matter, on the one that matters. To be honest, like, it's still hard for me, and I know I'm still like wrestling with my faith and my religion and Jesus, which is a very loaded word and name for me. I'm sorry, but it is. And Yeshua, which is his Hebrew name, is almost a little easier. But from what I read in the Bible, that is just a person that I really want to be like, and I really want to idolize. What's interesting is that Jesus never even asks in the Bible to be worshipped, which I thought was interesting, that I recently learned. And he just asks that we love God with all of our heart, soul, and mind, and that we love others the way we love ourselves. And so in this time, I'm really trying to get back to loving on myself so that I can immediately love on others, that I can make sure that I'm not being distracted by things like the stock market and money, and that I can really like put my focus on more spiritual things, on more like love, put my focus on love, and then let things build from there. All right. I'm up against the 1 hour mark. Let me see in these last final reflection notes. So if you were listening this long, you definitely are interested. So I'll give you a couple questions to think about and leave you with. So what am I unconsciously or consciously moving toward? What does it make me more loving? Does it make me more loving, more whole, more free? And the quote goes, we are formed by what we rest our attention on. So we should probably make sure it's something or someone we really want to end up like. I encourage you to take some time to maybe think about where you're focusing. I truly think that if focus and paying attention is worship, then maybe we should take a moment of where we're putting our time and our attention to. Is it of things that are rooted in love, or is it things that make us more anxious and leave us a little emptier, or just don't fill up the tank as much as we'd like them to? And hopefully we can get connected to things that are making us more loved, more whole, and more free. Again, I truly am grateful for everyone who's listened this long, all the way up to this point. Go and check out the Roots and Streams coaching. At the very least, like, if you've listened this long, just let me know what you think of the website, what you think of the forum. I can use all of the feedback I can get. If you want to sign up, it is open. First come, first serve. If you want to meet in person, it is here at my house, in my garden, which I think is very beautiful. I have a pergola with like grapes growing over it. If you really want to be in person, it mostly works for me to come to me. I live in Pacoima. It's in a gated community. It's near like Van Nuys and Foothill. And that's where I had my very first session. So I'm just super pumped that I got one session in, and I have one person that I'm working with, and it went well. They definitely seem to enjoy the session. And if you want to do it via Zoom, we can do that as well. I know sometimes that's easier on other people, and probably way more convenient to just like have the session and be able to jump to what's next. And I'm okay with that. But if you want the full experience and the weather's nice, we can meet here in the garden. I have it set up and it's super peaceful. So once again, everybody, thanks for listening. I'm looking forward to season 3 with everybody. Any comments or just likes or whatever, it's also helpful, and just to know what everyone's thinking about just the journey, the content, and I have more guests coming up. So until next time, everybody, peace.